All right, we're back. And through our technical difficulties, we've transwarped Devin O'Donnell out of here. Becky Bell is in. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing so good. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to see some great modern play as well. We've been seeing some pretty cool varieties of decks so far in the first few rounds, and I think I'm excited to see how this is going to end up shaking up and which one is going to come out on top this time around.
All right, well, we'll set this magic side of stuff aside for a moment. How many shades are in your hair? Is it
How many
three?
shades? It's three. It's
Okay.
the yellow, and then it's the orange, and then I've got the red at the bottom, which
Wow.
is also coincidentally pretty much every single color that's in the Nerd Rage
Yeah.
Championship Series
That
logo.
that's
So,
that's good devotion. And that took, I'm guessing, what, 15 minutes, half an hour to
oh
do that?
yeah, totally. It
Just
actually takes like 5 minutes. I just like sometimes wake up and like
yeah.
throw like pixie dust in my hair, and then all of a sudden this is the end result.
Yeah. What? Oh. Our director just commented that maybe my hair, we could do something similar. No, we're not doing that. I finally got my hair cut yesterday after the person that cuts my hair has been out with coronavirus for a while, so
Oh
I needed
no.
it. Well, you saw me last week, but yeah, I was happy to get that done. All right, round 6 coming up. As chat comments that Chandra is here to commentate. That's awesome. Anyway, we got round 6 coming up. We got our matches picked. Let's go ahead and go down to the table. Table here's our shuffling. Haven't presented yet, but that is imminent. So let's not waste any more time. We've got Jeremy Peterson on Dredge versus Nathan playing 4-color control. Okay.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, this seems like an interesting matchup. I'm also very surprised to see Dredge kind of in this place. It is just like as modern sometimes is you just get to play the deck that you're very comfortable on and just put your head down and do your own thing. And Dredge is certainly one of the decks that can end up being that way. And then one of the just like pinnacles, which this feels this feels like modern to me, the
Right.
like flavor of the month deck versus this is my deck that I have and I like it and it's something that I feel comfortable on. And like sometimes those end up being the good decks and then you start to feel really good about knowing and having that comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. The 4-color control, I think is probably a little bit more than flavor of the month deck. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Is yeah, some people just never change decks, and occasionally it works out really well for them. So Jeremy's gonna take a mulligan here. Now these 4-color control decks can kind of deal with everything if they draw the right section of their deck. On this case, what Nathan is going to be looking for are 2 copies of Endurance,
Ooh.
which is a really strong one here. And then if he can get Delirium, he can traverse the Uberwald to get those. So that's kind of what Nathan is hoping for here, aside from the typical, removal packages we know they all have. And Dredge, whoa, 1 to 5. Okay.
Hmm. But I don't think that this is a deck like it's going to be rough to mulligan with, but not really horrible to mulligan with. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel as detrimental because if you just get those few key cards, like you start to do your own thing, and the dredge kind of ends up making up for the lack of cards that you would have had from those.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these dredge decks, half the cards in the deck you don't want in your hand anyway. So 5 cards
Yeah,
just makes it easier to not have them. Um,
for lack of a better way, and to try and keep this in an optimistic light, yes.
I did see a comment in the chat about the volume. So we did switch. We made a change in the protocol we're using for the audio during the break. So someone is saying your mic is intermittent. It was just like if the volume is not the way you guys like it, go ahead and let us know now because that's certainly a possibility since we did make a change between rounds 5 and 6. Anyway, Jeremy is satisfied with a 5-card hand and leads off with Mana Confluence here. So let's see how it develops here. Both players at 4-1. Heading into round 6 with 4 more rounds to go. This is a 9-round event. So, this is plenty of time for, the good players and the good decks to rise to the top.
And sometimes there's going to be a little bit of, again, just these pet decks. Because, like, taking a look at what are the other decks that are doing really well in this tournament right now while our players are just making these opening plays here, it's a lot of surprisingly to me, Amulet, I think, which when we were talking just last week, we were saying that we weren't really sure that Amulet was all that well of a positioned deck, and some people that you would talk to didn't think so either. But it seems to be doing quite well in this tournament. And this
Mhm.
is probably like the only dredge that's within the top 25. I would guess probably more, but I'm not clicking to the next page currently. So
Right. Yeah, this would definitely be an outlier. I mean, go back 4 years, and Dredge was probably in top 3 metagame. Now, I mean, Jeremy might be the only one. Who knows? We see an Otherworldly Journey here to get things started, and does flip over, I think, actually 3 for 3 on flipping dredgers there. I think it was 2 Thugs and a Darkblast. So, ready to get things started, and now he'll be at the mercy of, well, okay. Nathan's not going to waste any time. Talked about having 2 copies of Endurance, and one of them was available. And Jeremy's going to have to start over.
yeah, that's an unfortunate place to end up being in, but some kind of a situation that Nathan is going to be feeling pretty okay to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jeremy, I mean, Otherworldly Journey and with its flashback is out of here. Cathartic Reunion. Okay, that's great. Is there a dredger? There is. Okay. So this is a pretty solid
Ooh.
rebuild. Let's see if the slug can hit a dredger. If it can, he's in business.
Ooh.
Well, 2 Narcomoebas and a crippling chill. That's something.
Yeah, definitely not the worst. I love when people wear Apple Watches on screen too, and I get to see how they're doing on their fitness for the day.
That's yeah. I wouldn't. I mean, I see that Jeremy is in fact wearing a watch. Is it an Apple Watch just because the design, the shape, and everything?
Oh yeah, I wear one, so I get to
Okay.
see like the little rings popped up that tell you like how many steps you've taken in the day, like how long you've spent with your heart rate at like a rate that burns calories and stuff. It's kind of nice. It's a nice way to just like passively be thinking about just like being more active, which you know, as most people who are Magic players, gamers, all across the board, spend a lot of time sitting down. So good to have those little reminders to stand up, be a little active.
Yeah, passively remind you to be active. That was clever, even if it was unintentional. But yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that is not something I've ever experimented with. Some of these fitness tracking watches or whatever. So I guess there's only one Narcomoeba. I thought it was 2, but it is just
I thought
one.
so too, but I think the other one was just another otherworldly journey.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, Narcomoeba, gonna get done when it needs to get done. Do a little bit of damage in the air.
Yeah, it's a little bit of damage is about it, but it's something. With 4 crippling chills, you only need Narcomoeba to hit for 8. So that's also optimistic, but we'll see.
I believe in this little Narcomoeba, the little Narcomoeba that could,
Okay.
until we end up running into something like an Ice-Fang Coatl, and then all of a sudden everything's going to be slowly derailed.
I mean, but it's at least it's like even card advantage because Coil draws a card and Narcomoeba was free in the first place. So
That's true.
yeah, so it's break even.
Quick maths here on the NRG series.
Now Jeremy's still gotta work his way out of this hole of starting with only 5 cards in hand. And here is Otherworldly Journey on upkeep, I believe. Looking for quality dredgers. 3 crippling chills would probably be okay too, but doesn't look like the choice there. Another Narcomoeba. Okay, so double the clock. Draw for the turn, and it's actually a draw. Okay. That's I mean, if you're gonna draw a card, I might as well be a Cathartic Reunion, and the Otherworld Journey set that up. So okay, there we go.
And we were optimistic about one Narcomoeba doing 8 damage, but how do you feel about 2 Narcomoebas being able to accomplish 8 damage?
I think Nathan's probably thinking, you know what? You could even have 3 Narcomoebas if you don't put anything sizable in play.
That's fair. That is something that you start to feel a lot better with against something like this dredge deck that's kind of usually trying to just like vomit out creatures as quickly as
Mhm.
possible onto the board. And considering that we're reaching up to like turn 3, 4 here, and that hasn't really been something that Jeremy's been able to put together, Nathan's overall got to be feeling pretty good here.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, his deck is designed to kill creatures. A Fury wipes out the board with leftovers. Wrenn and Six kills half of it and survives. Yep, there's a Wrenn and Six. Okay, well,
This is awkward. Do you even want to go for an Narcomoeba?
I was wondering that too. You think a land is just more worthwhile? You're just like,
I kind of like we've been saying, or I've been trying to be very optimistic for the Narcomoebas, and then all of a sudden the Wrenn and Six comes into play, and I'm like, oh, maybe the Narcomoeba isn't that big of a deal. Maybe a land is worth more, but Nathan is going to decide that one of the Narcomoebas simply cannot stay, and we'll be doing 1 damage to it. Thankfully, that Wrenn and Six can be at 2, so not going to have to worry about this other Narcomoeba doing too much. Save for unless we get something like a Bloodghast, that could potentially make things a little bit unsure here.
all right, this needs to be big.
There's Amalgam and that Thug, though, going to the yard is
Yeah,
quite good.
it's going to resolve. That's a start. Okay, okay, more dredgers and a crippling chill, I think. More dredgers, better dredgers, Stinkweed Imps. All right, all right. Jeremy actually resolving this correctly in that none of the things going to the graveyard are actually going to trigger until the Cathartic Reunion is finished resolving. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we're gonna be pausing the match for y'all. We saw it too, and appreciate y'all looking out as well. Nathan did accidentally play 2 lands last turn. We have a judge who's pausing the match right now to get this resolved as well.
Okay, well that's awkward that they're in the middle of resolving, a 15, 12 or so card dredge while this happens. But
yeah, well, better late than never.
yes,
I think is the phrase.
yes, definitely. Okay, so they'll sort that out. Well, you know what? While they're doing this, we didn't look at the deck list before. If we have that available, let's go ahead and take a look now. All right, so that's from last round.
Yeah, it's probably pretty close.
Yeah,
well, actually, it might not be. Never mind. I take that back because Andrew Allenbogen is doing some interesting things with the 4-color deck list.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both playing Traverse Uvenwald, which does, make them somewhat similar compared to the Eldarmy's Call versions or the Time Warp versions that we saw earlier today. But all right, so we have a couple minutes here. Becky Bell, very colorful as always. Although your hair and your shirt, I mean, your shirt is like monocolor black, white, and then your hair is all over the place. But
yeah,
anyway.
That's usually how I like to vibe. I was making a comment the other day. I go to a friend's house to do laundry because I have to pay at my house, and it's a whole thing. And I was bringing some stuff over, and I was finishing a load of her laundry, and I was like, "Oh, do you like separate lights and darks?" And she was like, "Oh no, I just kind of like throw them all in at the same time." And she was like, and then I was like, "Oh, same. I just like throw everything in all together." And then she was like, "Well, the only thing you wear is black, so you don't have any lights and darks to separate if your entire wardrobe is just one color." And I was like, "Touche."
But if any of your stray hairs get sucked in there with your shirt, though, then there's colors, lots of colors. True. So
Very true.
All right. Well, maybe we'll revisit doing laundry later on. In the meantime, the match is back in action, so let's get back to it.
Yeah, hopefully that was an easy resolve because we still just had that Misty chilling and playing. It looks like that one is the one that has been returned. That Steam Vent, since it was tapped and utilized, is going to be the one to stay in play. And the Narcomoeba is getting a little feisty once again.
Okay, so the dredge finished up. We saw a couple amalgams go to the graveyard. I believe this is, I don't remember the name of this guy.
Something Ghoul, Soul something Ghoul.
All right, we'll see if that's
Very
actually
helpful.
Silversmote Ghoul. This is the one that I think if you gain life, then you get it back. Is that how it works?
Very nice with creepy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can pop that up. Silversmote Ghoul. Yeah, if you gain life, it comes back into play. So
specifically 3 or more life, hence.
Yeah, so this Narcomoeba now has some company on the board. And Nathan also took the Crippling Chill hit. So yeah, 9 life is where he's standing right now. And I don't know that he has a whole lot of action in hand.
This is okay, so this is the other fun part about seeing these decks that are like not like in favor in the current meta, but like every once in a while, like Like, I haven't seen Dredge in a while, but, like, am I excited to see Dredge and see that they're playing Silversmote Ghoul? Like, it's kinda cool.
I
It's
mean,
like the nice little, like, update, like, "Oh, how are you doing?" You're a friend that I haven't seen in a really long time, like, "What's new with you?" "Oh, you're playing Silversmote Ghoul? Cool, cool, cool. I'm glad that you're doing well."
well, I don't know if Nathan was too excited about the fact that Jeremy's playing Silversmote Ghoul, but yeah, it is cool to watch people looking for, somewhat unusual fringy decks. All right, so Silversmoke Ghoul and a couple of
Isn't
points
it
from Narcomoeba
done?
takes down game one. Now we'll take a look at the deck lists and see what else is in Jeremy Peterson's deck list. These Dredge decks, we see a couple copies of Merchant of the Veil.
Alright, what else are we doing in here? Yeah, that's new. Looks like just there's also only 3 copies of the Silversmote Ghoul, and 2 of them were seen in that game. Thrilling Discovery also, like, I don't it's weird because, like, Modern was, like, not something that was played for a little while, and then all of a sudden it's really popular again, and I don't know. I'm excited to see these changes, and the 2 big things that I can think of from the last time I saw Dredge, which I guess, mind you, should mention that that was a long time ago, are those Thrilling Discoveries and
Mm-hmm.
those ghouls. What are we kinda looking to bring in here against this 4-color deck? Do we want removal? Are we interested in Grief, or are there just too is there too much card advantage for us to be worrying about some things like that?
Well, I think we can kind of establish that we don't want much of the rest of the sideboard just by process of elimination. White ley lines aren't going to do much. Portable holes aren't going to do much. I mean, I suppose they take Wrenn and Six out and to increase the lifespan of our Narcomoebas, but I don't know if that even matters. Conflagrate might be a winner. I wonder if Gemstone Caverns just gets boarded in every game going second, in which case we could see that. And yeah, Grief seems like a distinct possibility. Now,
I'm a little bit biased because I just like Grief as a card, but I'm on board as well. I think being able to take away, like, there are so many kind of toolboxy cards in the 80 card Yorion 4-color decks that
mhm.
being able to, like, look at the hand and just, like, be able to assess the lines that you need to take according to what's in your opponent's hand can matter a whole lot.
Mhm. All right. So chat is saying white ley lines are solid because they stop endurance. That is certainly reasonable. Let's go and take a look at Nathan's deck. Let's see what other kind of grave hate might be in the sideboard and see if there is
Ooh,
anything
not a
else.
whole lot.
Okay, so there's more endurance. As far
Hmm.
there's, I mean, Supreme Verdict. Okay, that can help. Yeah, based on the fact there isn't a whole lot else. Yeah, okay, white ley line. That sounds reasonable. um,
Does
I
seem a
don't.
little bit scary to kinda, like, dilute your deck, but I guess
Right.
you're on a pretty good game plan, and somebody mentioned as well that there's a lack of, like, the Conflagrate package now
Mhm.
for this Dredge deck because of that Silversmote Ghoul, and so it does feel like since you're a little bit less kind of combo-y in that fashion. I know that it's not, like, really it is a combination of cards, not a game-winning combo, but not having to rely so much on some, like, little pings as far as that is concerned and trying to get a little bit more punchy with
Mhm.
the creatures. I think that that makes worrying about your graveyard a little less imminent, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see how this plays out. But yeah, there's not there's not a ton here. At least there's not like slam dunk winners besides endurance.
Mhm.
And yeah, I agree with you not wanting to dilute your deck too much as the Dredge deck. So if you're bringing in white ley lines, then Grief is maybe less likely to make an appearance.
Yeah, and it's weird. There's a Force Figure in the sideboard for the 4-color deck too, but I don't know if I was the 4-color player that I would anticipate Dredge to have white leyline in the sideboard.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure I would either. But again, my recent Magic experience has mostly been Pioneer. So I don't know the intricacies of the 4-color control preparations for things like this. People in chat saying Becky wishes she could be play Tron. She could be playing Tron. She was gonna play Tron last week, or at least she.
I was.
Yeah,
Sniffs.
that's okay. A Tron deck was already representing in that event, so
Yep.
you didn't have to show up just to put
Just
people
to
on their plate.
represent for us.
Yeah. All right. So looks
I
like
think
both
you
players.
came with a better version of Tron than I would have come with too, actually.
Well, I don't know. I can't speak to that, but certainly I was fairly satisfied with my version and with the result, even though I didn't win. Certainly came
I won them all.
close enough to, yeah. But
Ooh. Sorry, I'm oohing because there is, in fact, a white ley line in hand
mhm.
off of this mulligan, too. So, Jeremy, going to be able to not only play that for free, but did actually decide to bring it in as well. And will be able to put my curious mind at ease.
But yeah, boarding in multiple sets of cards seems tough. So I would not be surprised if the Griefs didn't make it in. There were 3 white lines in the sideboard. And yeah, just trimming a variety of things. Playing against a deck with some counters. Obviously, the pitch and draw cards get a little bit worse, but they're so strong. You probably want them anyway. I mean, it worked out last game.
Yeah. That was like a interesting situation where we were kind of choked on lands for this Dredge deck as well. Like, we never saw more than 2 lands, I mean,
Mhm.
until, like, the very end. So, kind of impressive that it was able to keep up with that as well despite that situation. Supreme Verdicts also actually came in for Nathan on this other side that we're able to see off of this fetch.
Yeah, that was. I mean, Jeremy short of land, Nathan flooded with lands, and really, I mean, Dredge is only going to have as many lands as it needs or as it starts with, because it's not going to draw many more if things are actually working the way it's hoping.
Oh,
Okay.
has Abundant Growth. Flusterstorm also part of this deck. Interesting situation to be in for Nathan, but nothing really proactive in hand, at least to start. Just a lot of reactionary things, the lands, the other things that we've mentioned, and then the Unholy Heat.
Yeah, Unholy Heat does, like Supreme Verdict. Yeah, I mean, you wipe everything clear. Unholy Heat, it's not super exciting. I mean, you probably just need things like that, but not something. I mean, it doesn't even kill all the creatures at this point. You can't even kill an amalgam yet.
Mm-mm. Not yet, though. We anticipate being able to get there, though, with what also is currently in hand, it doesn't seem like that's very close to possible. So I think
Yeah.
Nathan potentially hoping that it's a little bit of a shorter or slower start for Jeremy, but
Mm-hmm.
this is going to make it a little bit difficult.
So here's Otherworldly Journey, end of the turn. Nathan, I'm sure, would have preferred that it was just untap and then Cathartic Reunion or Thrilling Discovery, as the Flusterstorm is much better there than it is against either the front or back half of Otherworldly Journey. And okay, well, I can't make out the first card over, but Crippling Chill and Narcomoeba, but I think it's a Stinkweed Imp. Well, that's
Yep.
pretty solid.
Yeah. I would agree. And yep, it's just going to go ahead and dredge the imp and start filling up this graveyard. So the potential slow start that I'm sure Nathan was kind of hoping for, especially considering I can't tell if it's an Omnath or a land that was the draw. Oh, it's a Solitude actually that was the draw for turn.
All right, so I've been corrected. It's actually Otherworldly Gaze, not Otherworldly Journey that I keep saying. Sorry about that. Otherworldly Journey actually sounds like a white removal spell now that I'm thinking about it. Second land in play for Jeremy, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
Although it does increase the potential that he runs into a Flusterstorm. Jeremy,
Absolutely not. Nathan does not like Narcomoebas.
yeah, well, Jeremy should know better than to have creatures behind your lands. That's not the way you're supposed to play things. And so Nathan helped him out by just
Mm.
killing it.
True, there are supposedly new rules, despite the fact that everyone keeps just putting their creatures behind their lands anyway.
And there is Flusterstorm on the back. So, I mean, Nathan is certainly not getting card value here, as he's Unholy Heated a free creature and then Flusterstormed a half of a card. But you got to do what you got to do to stay alive and maintain your life total for until you can get your more expensive cards running.
Yeah, and
Jeremy, you're
this is
killing me here. That Narcomoeba, what's it doing?
it's start trying to stay safe behind lands, which doesn't make a lot of sense for a jellyfish that clearly lives in the ocean.
I mean, that's a different angle of logic than I was going to go with, but I bow to it. Yes, indeed.
And the 3 cards in hand for
Hey, look at
Nathan.
that.
Thank you. And then to follow up, yeah, the 3 cards in hand for Nathan are that Solitude and 2 copies of Omnath, I believe. So we could be using an Omnath to pitch to Solitude, but with where our it's awkward because like with where our lands are, I'm like, oh, I'd just get like 2 more, but that's kind of far away, and we're probably just hoping for a land to just get one of these Omnaths for something to start moving here.
Well, okay, there it goes. Silversmote Ghoul, a much more appealing target than the Narcomoeba. And yeah, it's out of here. I imagine
Oh.
if it was an untapped land,
It would
Nathan
have
would,
been a slam.
yeah, Nathan would have played it immediately. So is it a
The
traverse?
traverse,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Well, that only takes off 1 turn, and
I
you
don't even
know,
think we have delirium because it's on the stack and it doesn't count itself for delirium. But we probably want to land anyway to make sure that we
yeah,
can cast Omnath next turn. So
yeah. I mean, I suppose if there's delirium, Nathan could get a dual land, but as it is, yeah, a basic will do just fine. And this Narcomoeba, what, it's swinging from 1 damage here? Nathan can
yeah,
probably, yeah.
we're at 11. We're not looking too bad, and Omnath
No.
starts to kind of bridge that gap pretty
Mhm.
quickly once you start playing lands. And Yorion to go to hand with that extra 3 mana. This is not too terrible of a situation for Nathan. Like you could get lucky off of some of these draws, and having
Mhm.
an Omnath in play certainly keeps you in the game for a little bit. But against something like Dredge, like I think Dredge players sometimes have a pretty okay understanding of what exactly is going to happen, but I feel like half the time that I'm watching, I'm like, I don't know, whatever you put into play, like it could be a lot of things, it could be nothing. I don't know. Let's see what you got.
Okay, it's a land draw for Jeremy Peterson here. And some more pain to cast Ox of Agonas. That is probably the best thing you could have had going here. Will cost the entire graveyard.
For an Ox.
Pitching 3 dredgers and then drawing back. Yeah, by costing the graveyard, I meant it was just going to reset the graveyard.
Mhm, mhm.
It is totally replenished, and this is fantastic. As even if the Omnath wants to trade with the Ox next turn, that's no problem. It has plenty of fuel in the graveyard. This is an excellent turn.
Holy smokes. Yeah. That's to say the least. And now you could probably look across the table and see the light kind of fading from Nathan's eyes with what's currently in hand. And this is so hard because what, save for like a solitude, you like this Ox is gonna be very annoying.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was at least 1 chill, if not 2, plus the Narcomoeba, which is going to bring back the Amalgam,
Yep.
and then in for 1. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a more significant
More
Hayah than the
significant
last
Haya
one.
than the last one? Yeah.
All right, Nathan would very much appreciate a land drop here, a fetch land in
But
particular.
it's a tail's end.
Tails End, that's no good. Oh, and it really isn't good. And Nathan is going to lose this match to Jeremy Peterson on Dredge, and Dredge advances to
Mhm.
5-1. And Nathan's like, yeah, this Tails End didn't quite work. Okay,
All right.
so, well, score 1 for not quite the center of the metagame decks there, as a Dredge takes that one down. Good for Jeremy.
Honestly, yeah, I've gotta give some applause to that too. So, because you and I feel like Tron is actually pretty okay, or at least like 50-50 against a lot of the 4-color decks, sometimes in a
Mhm.
situation where it would actually be kind of favored. So it's something that you and I would feel comfortable bringing, and I have to imagine that's kind of how Jeremy feels about this Dredge deck. And with some of the changes that have been made to it, it seems like it is pretty good at being able to stay, like, pretty even. It feels a lot less delicate than the old Dredge I feel used to
Sure.
be, with some of these changes that are even creatures like Silversmote Ghoul that's just like easier to cast normally. So I'm actually quite excited about this dredge deck that Jeremy Peterson has brought to the table today.
All right, so let's go ahead and get our backup match for round 6 going. Colin Flack versus Zach Dubin, and just kidding. There we go. Now it's rolling. Okay, so this is the time shifted match for round number 6. Boros Burn versus 4-color Blink. So another 4-color deck. If you're rooting against 4-color, I think they've done okay so far today on camera. We definitely didn't have too many of them on early in the day. But we've now seen Ellen Bogan and Nathan, and then now Zach Dubin with 4-color Blink. Let me take a look and see what variety is being presented here. This is an Eldamri's Call version, as opposed to the Traverse versions that we saw the last 2 rounds.
I may be partial to the Eldamri's Call versions just because they do also play Ephemerate. And I am a pretty big fan. How do you feel about Burn right now? Like, Burn was one of the decks that when I was trying to decide like a modern deck to bring, I was like, the default is kind of like Burn because it's pretty linear. I guess a lot of people could argue that Tron is also pretty linear, but if people are preying on Tron a lot, it feels really bad. And then I was like, oh, I could just play Burn, but then something like the 4-color decks that just like play 4 Omnaths and are incidentally gaining a bunch of life. It feels like Burn is a lot more like kind of towing the line between in a good place and in a bad place. But at 4 and 1, Colin would certainly make me think that it's in a pretty good spot.
All right, so Zach Dubin here with 4-color Blink, and Colin Flack with a Burn deck, missing the second land drop. It's a bad spot to be in.
It's a bad spot to be in, but a pack of Swift Spears trying to hold down the fort at least.
I mean, sure, but yeah, I always feel like, I mean, when the Burn deck misses the second land drop, like, oh, its hand is full of spells, but I don't feel like that works. I think you need to be able to deploy things faster than just one a turn, because the Zach's deck is going to get rolling. It's going to get Omnath or some such in play, and then the Burn deck is just going to be irrelevant. But we'll see. I mean, a land this turn and 2 spells would lead to a pretty sizable attack. Anything later than this, I would be worried.
Yeah, and considering this Ice-Fang Coatl is pretty far away from being able to have Death Touch, I wouldn't be feeling too scared about continuing to just punch in with the Swift Spears.
Right. Yeah, okay. Wrenn and Six. I mean, sure, that's a land drop, but Colin can probably just ignore that.
Yeah, thankfully those Swift Spears, 2 toughness, don't really have to worry too much about that Wrenn and Six, and probably just trying to decide if it's worth even trying to kill or not.
Wow.
Oh! 4 pair.
Yeah, that's quads. I don't know what
I don't know poker word. If that wasn't apparent just there.
Did you say 4 pair? What did you say?
I said 4 pair, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Which is not a thing.
4 of a kind is a thing. What?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Please help. Educate me.
I mean, I don't think you need to know anything about poker. How did you come up with calling this 4 pair?
I don't know.
Is one Swift Spear like? I mean, I don't look at the artwork. Is one Swift Spear like? Is there 2 people in the picture? Is one of them 1 pair already?
Well, yeah, it's Monastery Swift Spear and Taylor Swift.
I see. Okay.
There's no. It makes no sense for poker. It makes no sense for English. Also, this Swift Spears. It's just a Swift Spear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave, for also showing everyone the artwork to make me wrong.
Yeah, he's new. He'll learn to cover our mistakes later. Right now, he's emphasizing them. Okay, can Colin Flack actually pull through this game here? Well, not with more creatures. Gosh. No, it has to be spells.
This does. I agree, but I mean, all things considered, this game is going a lot better than I would have imagined. Oh, a second Coatl does give 3. Yeah, because do they count themselves?
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yeah. So
there's also 2 snowlands. I missed the island that's now under everything.
So now things are going to trade off, and that's bad news for Colin. Zach Dubin will fall to 9 or 8, depending on how he chooses to block, and there's a Solitude on top. That's also bad news for Colin, assuming Zach can cast it, which we know is going to happen with Wrenn and Six in play. And I mean, boy, it's hard to imagine with any 2 cards in Colin's hand got transitioned into 1 land in place of them, and he'd be fine. Instead, he's completely wrecked. Nice of Colin to point out to Zach.
I was about to say that too. Thanks, Colin. And it's a Misty as the land for turn. You love to have a fetch land after you play that Omnath, but for Colin, that's gotta feel pretty bad, though.
Yeah, so Zach has the choice here. Do I want mana or do I want 4 more life? On Colin's turn, he decides to go with the mana option. And I'm sure he's able to make good use of it here. Something more than just pick up Yorion, probably. We know there's a Solitude in hand. And it may even be more than that.
All right. 12 life. What, if anything, could Colin do to be in this game? The moment, Teferi? Yeah, okay. Normally, the Omnath would kind of be the final nail in the coffin, in my opinion, because like the incidental life game on top of it being 4/4 just makes it a little difficult to kill. So that would have been like my moment, but the Teferi is like an extra, just like, and you're really not getting out of this game. In case you were wondering, the door is closed.
Yeah, well, yeah, the case was made definitively for me with the Omnath. Yeah, the Teferi is just like, sure, that's fine too. But yeah, the Omnath definitely seals it up. Okay, let's look at the sideboards. So on deck list, so let's go ahead and bring it up. Here we have Colin, Flack, Boros, Burn deck.
This looks just like pretty stock. Like pretty
much
everything in here feels like what if I was going to go to a tournament tomorrow and I was like, what are burn cards that I want? These are the ones that I would pick. And going into this matchup, I think I'm just kind of on some removal. Deflecting Palms maybe, but they feel kind of awkward to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Rolling Vortex can prevent Solitude getting pitch cast, I suppose. Well, more or less. Maybe you want Path for Omnath. Alternatively, all of your pro-red creatures have protection from Omnath. But
I just feel like if Omnath is on the board, you've lost.
I think that's a reasonable perspective. Yeah.
So I think you're just trying to win before that, and that might just be not changing a whole lot in the deck, or if you're going for that Rolling Vortex, it is to just continue to deal that extra bit of damage. But
I mean, yeah, especially going first. Maybe going second, you want some more alternative measures, but going first, you might be comfortable with where you're at. Let's go ahead and look at Zach Dubin's deck list. And I'm sure there's going to be some help in here, potentially. I mean, there are some cheaper creatures in Endurance. There are some counters in Flusterstorm. That all seems fine.
Yeah, how do you feel about something like Chalice the Void and being able to play Chalice for 1 or 2? Do you think it's worth it for a deck like this, or do you think you're just like, I have all these cheap creatures that are going to be able to save me, I don't need Chalice the Void?
I think going first, I don't know that you'd want to go in second. I think going first, you could make a solid case for it. There are some things you can trim out, but you are getting rid of some of your own removal when you do that. You know, wiping out lightning bolts. Is wiping out your lightning bolts a good trade for wiping out a dozen of your opponent's lightning bolts? Maybe.
Maybe. Unsure.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and roll game 2, and the capture missed the very beginning of the game. So we're going to jump in, and game 2 is already going to be in progress. So let's go ahead and hit that.
I was going to channel my inner Joe Lissette and blame it on Dave, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how we can blame it on us.
I can't believe... Yeah, exactly.
All right,
I can't believe you missed the start of the game. Just kidding. You're doing great, Dave. I know this is your first day.
All right, so we can recreate this for you. It went turn 1 land pass for Zach Dubin, Colin Flack, turn 1 Goblin Guide, turn 2 Chalice for 1.
What?
And
Colin went first. Yes? Because Zach
yes,
won the
you're
last
correct.
game?
You're correct. Okay, so
Yeah.
when I say recreate it for you, I meant confuse everybody. But you're right. So the Chalice did come in on the draw, and it is in play. And we'll just see how that plays out. Some damage obviously gets around it, and this Goblin Guide connecting a couple times here.
Yeah, what else is in hand? Are we really being stopped a lot by this Chalice? There it looks like we have an Eidolon, a Islet, and one other card that I wasn't able to make out. And Fury gonna take care of Goblin Guide and on track for land so far. So far, so good. Zach's got to be feeling pretty good sitting at 12 if that is an accurate life total here.
Yeah, so it's going to have to be all, heavy burn spells. Boros Charms being the primary one. 3 Boros Charms would get this done. That seems unlikely. Although, I mean, Colin drew 4 Swiss Spears last game. He could draw 4 Boros Charms this game. Or, I'm sorry, 4 pair is the terminology that we're using. But, I mean, the Omnath is already in hand.
I am going to just start saying it now just for fun.
Well, yeah, that's what we're doing anyway, right? I'm saying it for fun now.
Good. You're right. You're right. Colin, rough situation. I mean, regardless of this Chalice, I think a Lightning Bolt was the draw for turn, which has got to feel rough. Prior to that, didn't have a hand that was like hurt by Chalice, but considering that most of your deck is going to end up being hurt by Chalice, it just existing, especially if we didn't bring in those Smash to Smithereens, which I don't know that I would have expected a Chalice, so I don't know that I would have brought in Smash to Smithereens personally.
And it's pretty narrow. I mean, even if
Yeah,
there's a couple
exactly.
Chalice in the deck, there was only 3.
Yeah, and it's an 80 card deck, so do you bring
Mhm.
in Smash to Smithereens for that? I don't know. That's hard.
All right, here's
This is why I would have decided not to play Burn.
Here's the light up the stage. I think we just made our land drop already, so that's not ideal when we're playing light up the stage, but we'll see how it happens. We certainly know that Colin's not going to have a follow-up spell this turn. And actually, this light up the stage may not even resolve.
Oh.
Yep, there's a counter spell. You said you're going to say it for fun. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it for fun and to mock you at the same time, which is basically, the height of existence as far as I'm concerned.
It does feel like that tries to be your game played a lot of the time. And I was watching earlier when you were commentating with Devin, and I was like, oh, is chat gonna realize that Joe is not like really being as mean as sometimes it seems?
What mean? I didn't say anything.
There was one thing that you said, or Devin made a comment, and then I think you were just like trying to go like back into the game and like what was happening on the board, and you were like, "Yeah, anyway," and it just made me laugh. I was like, "This seems like a little bit of a like moving on past what you were saying and onto what I'm saying," but it was like trying to keep up with the game, especially because it was a time shifted match that was accelerated.
So Zach Dubin's life total just adjusted downwards to 2. Which was less than
6?
I thought he was
Okay.
at. So he just gained 4 from Omnath. So this game is actually much closer than it may have appeared.
Yeah,
At
okay.
least
That
to
Goblin Guide
us.
did a lot more work than we thought it did.
Yeah.
A Lava Spike, it's
And
oh!
now it's over because now Omnath's in play. And well, you know what? Let's just delete that from the archives and move on. Okay.
Oh!
So now we're back to okay, we're gonna get all of the screw ups out of this round, and then just the last few rounds of the day are gonna be all clean and perfect. We can only imagine. Okay, well, thank you for being with us, everybody. We just completed round 6. We got 3 more rounds of Swiss and the quarterfinals.